Is Mark Carney really that out of touch with how Canada has been the last 9 years? He just said that Canada's problem financially is not Justin Trudeau's fault.
Economic crisis was brought on by former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and you were his advisor.
I think you would find. I think you would
did not create that problem.
I certainly. Hey, nobody in Canada created that problem. Nobody in Canada created that problem. The U.S. government.
He blames the tariffs and U.S. President Trump. Question: if the tariffs just came into place this year, what happens to the last few years when shit's been downhill? Oh, that's right. He doesn't have to worry. He lives in his fancy house, drives his fancy cars, and flies around in nice airplanes. He doesn't have to worry about where he's getting his groceries next. He doesn't have to worry about how he's going to pay his rent. He doesn't have to worry about any of these questions. But I'm not sure who this reporter is, but he just goes off and asks, "Hey, Carney, you're not yet PM. You spent $500,000 flying to Europe. Are you going to repay us all back?" Listen to what he has to say. This guy is such a clown. Yeah.
You have not been elected in a federal election yet, and you recently flew to Europe on government wide-body jet at the expense of at least $500,000. So the question I have for you today, and maybe I'll say this before I ask the question, these people around you all paid for that flight, and you've not been elected yet. So will you commit to refunding these taxpayers for that flight?
Well, it's an interesting question, way of framing it. Look, and I'm going to go back to, I'm going to allude to the question that was asked previously by Mr. Staples from...
What do you guys think? So far, do you guys think it's okay for him to jump in a plane paid by taxpayers when he's not quite PM yet? He hasn't been elected. He just got pushed in. So we're paying for him to fly around on a fancy airplane, but we haven't elected him. What do you guys think about that? Let's get back to it.
From the Journal, and the situation that we're in as a country, which is we are in an economic crisis that's brought on, sorry, I'm going to answer the question, brought on by the tariffs that have been put on Canada, actual and prospective. One of the challenges...
The economic crisis was brought on by former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and you were his advisor.
I think you would find...
These people did not create that problem.
I certainly... hey, nobody in Canada created that problem. Nobody in Canada created that problem. The U.S. government has decided to put tariffs on all of its closest allies. All of its closest allies. I wouldn't for a moment suggest that anyone in Canada is the cause of this. What our responsibility is to take action to react to a different world.
So he's trying to tell us, hey, it wasn't Justin's fault, it was Trump's fault. It wasn't his fault being his financial advisor, it was Trump's fault. You need a reality check, man. Like, where the fuck have you been, dude? Huh? You smug little motherfucker. Fuck, he pisses me off. Sorry about the language, but he's getting... boils my blood.
That we're in. And part of the way we do that is we build out new partnerships, new opportunities, including opportunities. And I'm going to give you a specific one, and then I don't know if you have one more follow-up. No, but I'll give you a specific example that goes to my previous answer. Something I also discussed with the Premier this morning, which is Canada has many advantages, and one of them is in critical metals and minerals. One of the issues is how are we going to develop the trade routes and the trade corridors rapidly in order to export those critical metals and minerals? And who are our clients for that? Who are our customers? Do we only have one customer to the south of us, the customer that's attacking us, that doesn't respect the trade agreements that they signed? Or should we develop new customers in Europe? What's required, if I may, what's required for those new customers is to build out trade corridors and infrastructure, including what I referenced in my previous answer and discussed with the Premier, is the potential to go north, go to new deep water ports. Churchill is an example, Gray's Point in Nunavut as another. And that creates a whole new set of opportunities.
Guess what one of the requirements is to diversify trade to the European Union? Guess what one of the requirements is to diversify trade to the United Kingdom? Guess what one of the requirements will be to diversify trade to emerging Asia? Is to have a form of price on carbon. Is to have a form of price for the largest on carbon. It works better for Canadians.
For Albertans as a whole, for people across the country, for these hardworking people around me and those like them in the trades. And that's what my job is.
I'll take that as a no then.
No, you'll take that as a very comprehensive answer to your question.
You'll take that as a very comprehensive answer to your question. It's a fucking no. Call it what it is, man. He ain't paying us back. This fucking guy. He's such a clown. Fucking Carney the clown. What a goofball. Jesus. Oh, there you have it, folks. Liberal leader is so out of touch with reality. What a comprehensive answer. Get out of here. What do we have next, huh? Let's find out what's next. What a joke. Meanwhile, Canadians are having a hard time getting by. This guy is on a vacation on our dime. Now he's playing NHL. He's practicing with an NHL team, the Oilers. What a clown.
The Prime Minister hitting the ice with the Edmonton Oilers as he prepares for his next political play, sending Canadians to the polls.
In this time of crisis is that the government needs a strong and clear mandate.
CBC News and Radio Canada have learned Mark Carney will ask the Governor-General on Sunday to dissolve Parliament, a day before it was set to return, triggering an election campaign.
And I haven't been Prime Minister for a week yet, and you can see what we've done thus far. We can do even more.
The Liberals are leading in the polls for the first time in almost 3 years. After Justin Trudeau resigned, Donald Trump threatened Canada, and Carney took power.
It's one of the most unprecedented shifts in public opinion we've seen in modern history.
Poll analyst Eric Grenier says if there was an election today, polling suggests the Liberals could win.
Maybe potentially getting...
Is that his whole plan? It's going off the polls? People are going to see right through this guy. We only have 2 months though. I bet you he calls it for like... Earlier I was saying May, June. I bet he's going to even cut it even shorter. He's probably going to do April or May. The end of April, early May. Because he knows he's got no time if he wants to win this. We got people on this honeymoon phase. Come on, man. We can do better than this. We deserve better than this. 100%.
After losing some ground in the polls, the Conservatives leader pitching a way to fast-track big industrial projects and defending its decision to bar journalists from traveling on their campaign bus and plane.
We will have open media across the country. Local media will have the ability to ask questions. It will be refreshing to hear from local outlets on what they have to say about their local priorities.
It ends a decades-old practice and could make it harder for political journalists to attend campaign events and ask Poilievre questions.
He gets defensive, he gets offended, he can't handle questions.
I wonder why. It's because they go off and have a narrative that they need to spin. That's probably why he doesn't want mainstream media there. You ever think about that? Whatever CBC channel this is I'm listening to right now? Fucking hell. Jagmeet Singh. I bet you he's about to call out Pierre Poilievre for not having a backbone and standing up.
The NDP's facing questions about its own future. Polls suggest it's getting squeezed out of the race, and even Jagmeet Singh's own ridings at risk.
We're not going anywhere. We're always going to fight for working people. We're not going anywhere.
That will be up to Canadians to decide.
Then why didn't you call an election when we had the fucking opportunity? Ooh, maybe because you wanted to get your pension. What a joke, man. What a joke. I guess we're starting to close ties off to America. Looks like Canadian MP Charlie Angus issued a travel warning against the United States. Let's see what he has to say about it.
Good morning, Wache. Charlie Angus, honored to be here on the unceded territory of the Algonquin Nation. Over the last 3 months, our nation has faced an unprecedented threat from our nearest neighbor. A threat to our borders, a threat to our sovereignty, a threat to our very right to exist as an independent democratic nation. Donald Trump thought we were going to be an easy mark, that we'd be a pushover. Oh, how wrong he was. And now Canada standing up to him has made Canada the front line.
Are we standing up or are we just running away? Seems like we're running away. Doesn't seem like we're standing up at all. It's like, hey, bye. We're cutting all ties. Run away. I know. What do you guys think? Are we running away? Or are we standing up? What are we doing? Mark Carney's flying to Europe. Sure seems like we're running away.
In the defense against the MAGA ideology. So no wonder Donald Trump and MAGA are feeling pretty angry at Canada. But what concerns me is the targeting of Canadian citizens who are crossing the border to work or to visit. We have seen too many stories of citizens being pulled out of airport lines and being fingerprinted and deported as though they were criminals. Citizens being kidnapped through illegal detention by ICE. And it's not just Canadians. We see the attack on backpackers, students, doctors, professors. I am here today to say to Canadians,
I was reapplying for a work visa. I had a work visa and then I was reapplying for another one. And because my lawyer was in San Diego, I was at that border.
A backpacking trip turned nightmare. That's how one British father describes his daughter's trip to the U.S. after a visa mix-up at the border.
A desperate father in the United Kingdom opened this Facebook post on March 8th, saying his daughter, Becky Burke, had been on a 4-month backpacking trip when she was detained by ICE on February 26th.
to avoid travel to the United States if at all possible, and to call our government to stand up for our Canadian citizens who are being denied their rights by arbitrary detention in the United States today. Canada must stand up for our citizens and for the rule of law. Because what we're seeing, for example, with cops pulling over the folk duo Cassie and Maggie to harass them for being Canadian, is not the actions of a democratic nation. People whose phones are being seized and searched for any kind of incriminating evidence that they're somehow progressive or woke, that's not the actions of a democratic nation. That is the creep of totalitarianism. That is the creep of fascism, and we need to call that out, because that is not what happens in a nation governed by the...
Huh. Didn't we do this to our own people too? Wasn't that long ago. We pretty much did the exact same thing to Canadians. Oh hey, they're American, so you know, it's bad. It's bad. Just my opinion, folks. Hate it or love it. That's just my opinion. Let's find out what else we have going on today. Today seems like a very good day for the news. Holy. Guess I wasn't digging deep enough for these stories about these people getting detained at the borders and put in holding cells by ICE. So here we go. I found some stories because I was like, what in the world is going on? So here, let's listen to this one. This one's a British lady. We'll get to the Canadian one after. There's a Canadian one I found. So let's get to the British lady, the backpacker, stopped at the border. Let's find out what happened to her.
A backpacking trip turned nightmare. That's how one British father describes his daughter's trip to the U.S. after a visa mix-up at the border. Good evening, and thanks for joining us for the news at 10. I'm David Rose.
And I'm Sabir Rayford. That mix-up has landed the young woman in an ICE detention facility in Tacoma, where she still is tonight. Fox 13 reporter Nia Wong has been following this case. She's joining us from the newsroom with what we know so far.
Paul Burke says his daughter's current conditions at the Northwest Detention Center are deeply concerning, and she's been there for nearly 2 weeks. As they reach out to British leaders, they are asking for help in the States to help bring Becky back home. A desperate father in the United Kingdom opened this Facebook post on March 8th, saying his daughter, Becky Burke, had been on a 4-month backpacking trip when she was detained by ICE on February 26th. The cartoonist had been sharing her adventures on her Instagram account, where she stayed in Portland, then Seattle, before heading up to the Canadian border. Paul Burke says she was denied entry into Canada due to an incorrect visa, and when she tried to go back to the U.S., was refused re-entry and classified.
So, Canada doesn't accept her, kicks her back, and there's problems with her visa, so then they detain her. Maybe get your shit together before you cross the border. I don't know. Let's hear what. Before I get to speculate too much, let's hear what the rest of the story is. Let's find out what it is.
As a, quote, illegal alien.
This is very heavy-handed.
Abdin Bahadur is an attorney for Ryan Swanson in Cleveland in Seattle.
The immigration laws are not something to ask forgiveness for later.
Nope.
Burke's father says she was on a tourist visa, and her social media account shows she participated in Workaway, a cultural exchange, according to the Workaway website, that expects participants to help around 5 hours per day in exchange for food and accommodation. ICE confirmed Burke is still being held at the Northwest ICE Processing Center related to the violation of the terms and conditions of her admission. U.S. Customs and Border Protection says it can't discuss specific cases, only saying on background, quote, individuals who travel to the U.S. under the visa waiver program are not allowed to work for any type of compensation. That includes work in exchange for room and board. While
So, she was breaking the law, gets a smack on the wrists, and then cries about it. Whoa, hold up. When I used to do dumb shit, smack on the wrist, you didn't cry about it. You knew the consequences before you fucking started doing these actions. You can't tell me she didn't know that she couldn't do that. There's no way. And if she did, if she didn't know, that's her own fault. Own fault. So, alright, let's find this next story. Okay. Found this other story of this Canadian woman, Jasmine Mooney. Pretty sure she used to be in American Pie. I could be wrong. You have to Google that for me. But let's see what she has to say. Is it a case of I fucked up my visa stuff, and now they're slapping me on my hands, or are they just detaining me because I'm fucking Canadian? What is it? Let's find out.
No one deserves to go through that, what I witnessed, yeah.
The actress, who claimed she was transported 3 times, shared that the reason she was at the Mexico border was because her lawyer was in San Diego. She reportedly had encountered some visa issues in the past, including a cancellation, but claimed to reporters Saturday that when she was told by officials 2 weeks ago that she had to go back to Canada, she was then abruptly apprehended, despite looking for flights back to her home country.
I was reapplying for a work visa. I had a work visa, and then I was reapplying for another one. And because my lawyer was in San Diego, I was at that border. What I was told was I should have applied through the consulate, and because of my situation, they had to send me back to Canada. They said, you're not in trouble, you're not a criminal, you didn't do anything wrong. And then I sat down and I was looking to book flights home, because that's what I assumed that I was supposed to do. That I would just show them that I'm going home, and then next thing you know, I was taken. And from that moment on to right now, I have no idea why or how that happened.
What do you mean you have no idea why that happened? You had problems with your fucking visa. They told you had to go back home. Doesn't matter that you're looking for flights back home. You shouldn't have been in there. Like, you were in Mexico, and then you come into the United States to get your visa redone, but you have issues with it. There's ways to go around it properly. By the sounds of things, she didn't go by it properly. The sounds of things, she didn't know what she was doing. Clearly, she didn't know what she was doing.
It's still ongoing, but because there was issues in the past, I guess that's why. But to be honest, I really, like the whole process, I really don't completely understand. I was given no heads up of anything that was about to transpire on the way.
Why would they give you a heads up so you could run? That doesn't seem like the easy thing to do. Oh, where's she gonna run to? Come on, they don't know that. They don't know if you're bringing in dope or what, man. Coming from Mexico, crossing that border with a fucked up visa. Come on. Come on. Foolishness. It's straight up foolishness. Straight up foolishness.